now have a broader and deeper understanding of the three major affordable housing programs to help people who rent in the U.S. We've talked about the public housing program, the voucher program, and housing tax credits. So if you are a board member of a housing authority or a housing finance corporation, if you work for a state or local government in affordable housing, if you are a developer, if you're somebody who is setting public policy, or you're an elected official, this overview, I hope, will give you a broader framework to understand this entire landscape and also to appreciate how important and beneficial low-income housing tax credits are. Now, I will tell you too that in this exercise, we've gone over a simplified version of these programs, and in reality, these three programs actually work in combination. So there are programs out there where, say, a housing authority is using federal housing tax credits to renovate public housing, and the residents of those apartment complexes have vouchers. So these programs become very interrelated and kind of symbiotic, but hopefully you have a better understanding that will give you a foundation for the future. Thank you so very much for spending your time with me. I'm really grateful for your time and wish you all the best in your future endeavors. What we do in helping people to have safe, comfortable, quality housing is so very, very important. The children who grow up in these developments' lives are blessed tremendously by having a stable, strong, sound living environment. We do a lot of good, and I hope that you will continue to get out there and do more good and amplify your role in whatever that may be in the affordable housing landscape. Can we open it up for questions now on the Zoom call? Somebody asked if I could explain the difference between a 4% tax credit and a 9% tax credit. Yes, that's getting a little bit deeper into tax credits, but it's a really important point. So 9% tax credits provide a higher degree of subsidy, generally about a 70% subsidy for a housing development. The 4% tax credit provides, a little less than half of that level of subsidy, but there's a key difference. If you are trying to get an award of 9% tax credits, you have to go through a competitive process at a state agency. So you've got to enter and you've got to do a very extensive application and compete with lots of other folks who all want those tax credits because they're competitively awarded. 4% tax credits are different. If you get an allocation of tax-exempt bond authority for affordable housing in most states, this is the process in Texas, those come with an automatic allocation of 4% housing tax credits. So in the present climate, a lot of nonprofit and for-profit housing developers are going the 4% tax credit route because you have a much better chance of being able to obtain them. And this program is wildly complex, right? And that's why I've tried to pull back and give us an overview of it, but it's incredibly complex. Developers doing 9% tax credit applications can spend $300,000 easily on just putting the application together. When they're doing 4% tax credits and they're having to go to the point where they get bonds, an allocation of bonds from the state agency, they might have $2 million into a project in design costs and engineering costs, in consulting and legal fees, et cetera, before they even are assured that they can get an award of tax credits. So great question, Mary Jane. Anybody else have any questions? Oh, here's some more. How does a tax credit received over time reduce the immediate financing costs of a development? That's a really good point. It's a balancing act. So you'll borrow some of the money for the development from a bank, and then the construction project doesn't happen overnight. It can take 18 months to 2 years to build a 250-unit apartment complex, right? So not all of the money is needed immediately. So a lot of that money comes throughout that construction process, and then even sometimes later based on certain milestones. Very good question. Let's see. Is it common to have residents or applicants of these programs included in development planning? I'm just curious if those who will live at a public housing unit are able to provide input about the needs of their family. I would say it depends, right? In many cases, that doesn't happen, but in some cases, it does. Particularly if a public, there's also, look, part of the complexity of all this is that there are lots of developments that are, say, using low-income housing tax credits with housing choice vouchers to redevelop public housing. So there are combinations of all these things. And when you have public entities involved, they usually are the ones that do the best job, and nonprofits typically, of involving residents in the process. When I was the housing director in Houston, we had Hurricane Ike disaster recovery money from HUD, and we actually were tearing down and rebuilding resident single-family homes that were damaged in the hurricane with those HUD resources. And we brought the families in. We had an architect's charrette with 16 architects and had the lots of families who are actual applicants in the program participate, and they got to have a say, a powerful say, in how those homes were designed so that they would best fit their needs and that they would best fit architectural motifs and styles for that particular neighborhood and that community. So it's best when that happens. I will say it doesn't always happen that way, and the more frequently it does, the better. Very good point. In California, 4% credits are now competitive. Ah, interesting. Yeah, different states have different rules. The IRS allocates the credits to state agencies, and the state agencies can modify what's required in order to get the credits. And, you know, I learn stuff all the time. Might we include the acronyms that are common to this subject and their significance? I think we will include that in the course, again, if folks feel that this is something that's valuable, because you're absolutely right. You need a glossary of acronyms to be able to understand this world. There are 2,497,308 acronyms in the affordable housing world. I've counted all of them. Okay, I'm just kidding. It seems like there are that many. There are a lot of acronyms, and people expect you to just know all this stuff somehow, magically. When investors buy the credits at a discount, say 10 to 20% off the face, can there also be an additional margin in the transaction for the investor, and can those credits be recycled in the market? That's an interesting question. So say the investor pays 80 cents on the dollar for the tax credits. The program is more complex than just that kind of economic level, because what also happens is that the owner of the apartment complex, so the tax credit equity syndicator group, will take the depreciation value of the property also as a tax benefit. So there are some other financial aspects of this that make it more complex than just you pay 80 cents on the dollar and you make 20% on the spread, right? Somebody's interested in purchasing the finished product when it's available. So that's very kind. Look, I am so thankful that you all took time to spend with me today. There's a lot of people I love and admire and respect on this Zoom call, and it really means a lot to me. In closing, I'll just tell you that for those of us who work in the affordable housing world, I think the most important thing to do is to pull your head up out of the weeds at times and focus on the people we serve. And it's been my pleasure to be in this industry for many years. Thank you all very much, and have a great afternoon.